Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is David Damara. I'm from University of Pamulang. Today I would like to present the topic about psycholinguistics. The name of the topic is the theories in second language acquisition. So in the first slide there's the acquisition learning distinction. What is the acquisition learning distinction? Language acquisition is a subconscious process language acquirers are not usually aware of the fact that they are acquiring language, but only but are only aware of the fact that they are using the language for communication. The second way to develop competence in second language is by language learning. We will use the term learning henceforth to refer to conscious knowledge of a second language, knowing the rules, being aware of them, and being able to talk about them. In non-technical terms, learning is knowing about a language known to most people as grammar or rules. Some synonyms include formal knowledge of a language or explicit learning. Error correction has little or no effect on subconscious acquisition, but is thought to be useful for conscious learning. Error correction supposedly helps the learner to indulge or figure out the right form of a rule. If, for example, a student of English as a second language say, "I goes to school every day," and the teacher corrects him or her by repeating the utterance correctly, the learner is supposed to realize the that they go with the third person and not the first person. So in this acquis- in this acquisition learning distinction method, we are as the teacher. If if our student say that I goes to school every day, we can know that they wrong in they wrong to say or to write the uh, the verb for the I connect with the go. So we are the teacher in this method is have a function to correct that to correct or to convey that our student you are wrong, and we directly say to them that the pronoun or the verb for I is go. Thus, the pronoun go plus es or like for the other verb plus or increase the e or s is for the she or he. It's for singular. This is said by Pencil 97, 1977 and Long 1977. And the second slide, there's the natural order hypothesis. Brown 1973 reports that children acquire English as a first language tended to acquire certain grammatical morphemes or function words earlier than others. For example, the progressive markering as in "he is playing baseball" and the plural marker as "two dogs" were among the first morphemes acquired, while the third-person singular marker as in "he lives in New York" and the possessive as "John's hat" were typically acquired much later. Coming anywhere from 6 months to 1 year later, the fillers 1973 confirmed Brown's longitudinal results cross-sectionally, showing that items that Brown found to be acquired earlier in time were also the ones that children tended to get right more. So In the method of the natural order hypothesis, we are the teacher firstly convey or firstly teach the progressive marker, for example, like he's playing baseball or is playing football or basketball, and also the plural markers like two dogs, two kids, like hi, hi student. That if you want to, or the plural, if you want to say the plural or more than one, more than one animal or the things in the English, you should increase or you should increase the s in the front of in the front of the things that you want to say or that you want to write, like two dogs, two cats, two motorcycles, or two chairs. And and for the person singular markers like he lives in New York, or possessive John said, like the if you want to say a verb for the singular he or she, you should increase s in front of the verb. And also for the possessives like John's hat or John's motorcycle, as a teacher we are typically teach it much later. Shortly after Brown's results were published, July and Birch in 1974 and 1975 report that children acquiring English as a second language also show a natural order for grammatical morphemes regardless of their first language. We will deal with the pedagogical implication of the natural order hypothesis later. I should point out here, however, the implications of natural order hypothesis is not that our syllabi should be based on the order found in the studies discussed. This is I do not recommend teaching early and the third person singular like I said before. So in the third slide there's the input hypothesis. We might just state parts one and two of the input hypothesis as follows. First, the input hypothesis relates to acquisitions, not learning. Second, we acquire by understanding language that contains it's beyond our current level of competence, I+1. This is done with the help of context or external linguistic information. A third part of the input hypothesis says that input must contain I+1 to be useful for language acquisition, but it need not contain only I+1. It says that if the acquirer understands the input, there is enough of it. I+1 will automatically be provided. In other words, if communication is successful, I+1 is provided. As we will discuss later, this implies that the best input should not even attempt to deliberately aim at I+1. We are all familiar with syllabi that try to deliberately cover I+1. There's a structure of the day. The final part of the input hypothesis states that speaking fluency cannot be directly, rather it emerges over time on its own. In the fourth slide, this is the monitor hypothesis method. First time, in order to think about a use concept, the monitor hypothesis, the monitor hypothesis uh, method. First time, what 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 we need to what the things that we need to set this method to our student. First time, in order to think about the and use conscious rules effectively, the second language performer needs to have sufficient time. For most people, normal conversation does not allow enough time to think about and use rules. The, the overuse of rules in conversation can lead to trouble. For example, a consistent style of talking and attention to what the conversation partner is saying. Focus on form. Second, focus on form. To use the to use the monitor effectively, time is not enough. The performer must also be focused on form or thinking about correctness. Delay and birds not separate even when we have time. We may be so involved in what we are saying that we do not attend to how we are saying it. Now the rule. This is a for me. This is a very formidable requirement. Linguistics has taught us that the structure of language is extremely complex, and they claim to have described only a fragment of the best-known languages. We can be sure that our student exposed only to small parts of the total grammar of the language. We are even we we teach even the best students do not learn every rule they are exposed to. And the last is the effective filter hypothesis. What the things that will will make fastly this hypothesis to set or to teach to our student? First, motivation. Performers with high motivation generally do better in second language acquisition, usually, but not always integrative. Like if there's a student have a motivation to learn the second language, like they want to master or they want to study abroad or they want to really want to master the English language, like for communication to foreign people or foreigners, it will be it will be fastly for they or for them to learn or for study the second language. Self-confidence. Performer will second self-confidence. Performers with self-confidence and good self-image tend to use better second language acquisitions. Yes, yes, I agree with this. If we have self-confidence, like even we are wrong or we are false in the speaking or in the writing, the words or the sentences of English language, but if if we have self-confidence, we keep learning, studying every day. We do not care about what people say. So I think day to day or month to month, our English level or our second language level will be increased, especially or will increase significantly. And the third, anxiety. Low anxiety appears to be conducive to second language acquisition, whether measured as personal or classroom anxiety. It is connected to self-confidence. If we have, uh, we are as the student or we are as a human, exactly, we make the wrongness or we make something wrong. It's okay or it's okay. I think we as a teacher, we cannot or we won't or we will not judge our student because of their wrongness or their or if they make something wrong in the speaking or in the writing a sentence using English, because it will make them in a high anxiety. We are as a teacher, we should support as we should make ourselves or ourselves to be supporters or to be a friends in the learning language process them or of them. So our students anxiety is low. So their learning or their second language studying will be increased vastly or significantly. So that's all for me. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, or I'm really sorry if my presentation isn't clear enough. Thank you very much for the time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.